Good morning. It's nice to see everybody. We're so glad you're here to learn about it's no longer your grandfather's banking. Things have changed radically, and I'm just so pleased to have Peter Gualtney here with us, who's the President and CEO of the North Carolina Bankers Association. And so welcome, Peter. I'm delighted you're here.
Gretchen, thank you very much. It's great to be with you.
Thank you. Now, before we get started, I want to talk about if you have questions to ask during the program, this is how you do it. Okay, the live chat's turned on by default and shows up right on your screen. So to post in live chat, I'm reading this to you, click on to where it says say something and begin typing, and then click the send icon. So it should come into us if you have questions or comments or additions. So there we go. Okay, thank you very much for, hopefully that will help you get questions in, because in some of the earlier webinars, people have had a problem. So Peter, you've worked in the field of banking in many ways, but also you've worked in other areas of elder safety. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure, thank you, Gretchen. Well, I'm a former banker. I went into banking right out of school. I graduated from Louisiana State University. And then after a short stint in banking, I went to work for the Louisiana Bankers Association. I was there 17 years, the last 7 as CEO. And then I moved to Memphis, Tennessee to be the chairman, CEO, and president of the Senior Housing Crime Prevention Foundation, which is a national organization focused on elder financial abuse and prevention of incidents in senior facilities, nursing homes, and continuing care retirement communities.
Okay.
And then from there, I came to the North Carolina Bankers Association. I've been here as CEO for 6 years.
Okay, so you've got a really rich background, and that's terrific. Okay, well, let's just dig into this thing about banking fraud, because unfortunately, it's pretty rampant. No matter where we look for fraud, it's rampant. So I got an email from Bank of America, and I don't have an account of Bank of America, but they asked all sorts of questions, and they had a link that I was supposed to go to. What about these emails we're getting from financial institutions?
Well, and so that email that you got from Bank of America was not from Bank of America.
No.
That was, it looked like it was, and it was very authentic, I'm sure. I haven't seen it, but I'm sure it was very authentic looking. And that is a phishing scam, and that is a way for a fraudster, a fraud ring, to send out thousands of emails that look authentic, pretending to be any particular bank. And their hope is that they will reach some recipients that are customers of that bank. And if so, maybe a fraction of those will click on the link and start providing the information that they've requested, which is very personal information and potentially damaging for them to have. And so the key there is a bank will not contact you and ask for your personal information. That information is like gold, and you need to protect it. And so if I get a communication from my bank, whether it's an email or a phone call, I have the phone number of my bank, and I just call them.
So you go and find out the real phone number. Don't use the phone number in the email. Is that correct?
That's correct. And the phone number of my bank is in my phone. And when I need to reach them, that's the number I use consistently. And so even if there's a number in the email, forget the email. Don't pay attention to it. Just call your bank and say, I was contacted about a specific issue or a problem or something. I'd like to talk to the appropriate person. And then they will connect you with that person, and you will find out if you really do have a problem that needs to be solved. And if you don't, then you're good. You can rest on that. And if you do have an issue and let's just say it was authentic and they were trying to reach you, then you can resolve the problem with the bank. You trust them, you called them, and you'll be in safe hands.
Right. So that's information that's really applicable to so many of the scams, is to go, don't use the phone number in the email or the one they leave for you, but maybe they've left a message, but go to what you know is the official thing. Also look at the email for anything unusual like spelling or a funny like wish you well at the end, something that just wouldn't be appropriate for a business email. Yeah. Okay, so there's those kinds of impersonations, and believe me, that information, as you say, is gold. Later in March, we're going to talk about the dark web and what goes on there, and it's pretty amazing. But that's how they they buy information, and so you don't want to give them any extra. Well, now there's another problem of friends, family, or caregivers that sometimes exploit older adults in terms of their bank. You got some examples of that?
Well, it's unfortunate that 70% of the elder financial fraud cases that have been stopped, a family member was the perpetrator, and they were taking it could be a nephew, a grandson, it could be anyone, taking the loved one into the branch to ask them to withdraw a large sum of money or to wire money somewhere. And we really count on our tellers in the banking system to be aware, knowledgeable of these issues, and also aware of the laws that protect them, because we do in North Carolina have state law and there's federal law that allows a teller to report these incidences without liability to the bank for a breach of privacy. Because the safety and security of that person's money is so important that we trust bankers to make, and tellers on the front line who are really on the front line of a war here, to make those judgment calls and file those reports to Adult Protective Services or to the local law enforcement authorities when they believe someone is being mistreated financially or being taken advantage of.
Yeah, and I've even heard like durable power of attorney for finance. Sometimes it's just appalling that people are that cruel. Do other states have these kinds of protections and bankers associations and so forth?
Yes, the North Carolina Bankers Association is part of an alliance of state bankers associations. There's one in every state, and we all work together and we share information on good laws that were passed to promote the interests of the industry and to protect consumers. North Carolina has we've been very proactive on this issue, and others have looked at our laws and to promote in their general assemblies and legislatures.
Right. And you collaborate also with the Attorney General, right?
Yes. In particular, here in North Carolina, Josh Stein, our Attorney General, is a champion for consumer protection and elder financial abuse prevention. And so we collaborate closely with his office on this. They share information with us, and we do our best to inform our members across the state of the work that they do on behalf of consumers, and that's good for everyone.
So we just have at the bottom of the screen the Attorney General website and phone number. So it's the North Carolina Department of Justice.gov and the phone number. And they also have another aspect of their work around robocalls, because we all are going nuts with robocalls. So please report, because if we don't report, it's as if the the crime never happened. And how do we catch perpetrators? By people reporting. So it's really, really critical. What about stolen checks?
Well, stolen checks, this can happen. I'll go back to family members can take them. They can be stolen out of your mailbox. I just personally don't mail checks anymore. And if I do, then it's through a secure mailbox that can't be phished with something to take the mail out. But the real protection here, besides how you make your payments, is to check your bank statement every single month and be on the lookout for transactions that you don't remember or are out of character for the things that you do. We all are busy and it's hard to remember what you did last month. But just reviewing those things, I look for things that I wouldn't have gone there. I wouldn't have spent that money. And you immediately call your bank and challenge that transaction, and they'll work with you and help you get to the bottom of it. And if an affidavit needs to be filed, they'll work with you to do that. If it needs to be referred to law enforcement, then they'll help you with that.
Yeah, there have been a lot of conferences for bankers around fraud and what to do and how to protect their customers. Some banks also ask a customer to give them a contact person in case something dubious comes up, and they can also check with the contact person to see, get reinforcements on the issue. So that's important. Yeah, as you said, don't put your mail in your or checks in the outside mailbox outside your house, or even dropping them at the blue box at the post office, because people can fish literally with sticky bottles and pull up mail. And you take it inside and put it inside one of those strong places. But also, I think this whole thing about paying bills by electronically.
Yes, there's been vast adoption of online banking and mobile banking by American consumers, and particularly during COVID, when the pandemic hit and bank branches had to close for a period of time. Well, they didn't actually close; they closed their branches. You could still use the drive-through, but this motivated individuals to begin using online banking and mobile banking and doing their payments, their deposits, transferring funds between accounts. I think a lot of people in America learned what was available to them. That maybe because they didn't have to use it, they didn't. And now the convenience of mobile banking and online banking has been very helpful. 86% of Americans have, or even maybe more than that, have mobile devices. And the vast majority, I think it's 98%, have mobile devices, and 86% use them for mobile banking. And so with that, for example, I mentioned I do all of my payments through mobile banking. That is very secure. The bank takes responsibility for that. So if there is a breach, and you rarely hear about breaches of banks because they have so many levels of security and they're so heavily regulated. And so if there ever is a problem with a payment, you just call your bank immediately and work through it with them, and they'll help you.
Well, what about passwords? Those passwords.
Those pesky passwords, because you have to have them. And they're hard to remember, but you have to have them. So it's important to use a password that's not easily guessed, something that's difficult with characters in it, different uppercase and lowercase, and then write it down and keep it in a secure place. Keep a list. I keep a list, and what my biggest challenge is when I have to change them, then I have to remember them. So I write them down, and many financial, like with your bank and your brokerage services, sometimes your insurance company, they use two-factor authentication. And so that's another level of security that really protects you.
Say more about the two-factor authorization.
Yes.
What is that?
So most of my financially related transactions involve this, and so it's not something I opt for. The bank or the brokerage company requires it. So you log into the website with a username and password, then you hit enter, and then it comes back and it says, "We'd like to authenticate who you are, and whether you want an email to your email address or a text to your mobile phone, you can tell them which." And then they'll send you usually a 6 or 7 digit code, and then they send you the code to your mobile phone or to your email address, and then you go back to that site and put it in, and then that verifies who you are, and then they can share all of the information with you.
So would this be one of the second layers with ask like what's your father's middle name?
Some have done that, where they'll have test questions.
Yeah.
And you've identified in advance what that test question should be and what the answer should be. And so yes, they're doing that as well. There are so many different ways that companies can use two-factor authentication. And while it might be, oh, it's one more thing we have to do, it's a whole lot easier than trying to repair your identity.
Exactly. Whew. I mean, there's so many things that, as you say, we've got to remember, and sometimes you just go, "Oh, this is too hard." But as you say, trying to repair our personal and our identity, everything about us. And the thing is, so much is available in the just open, you can go over to government sites and get a lot of information about yourself, but you don't want to add anything extra for them to use, because it's like a jigsaw puzzle where the fraudsters are putting together bits of information they pick up. And from what I've learned about the dark web is they can buy all this stuff for a few dollars. And so it's a place we've got to be very, very careful. We don't want to scare people. We just want to get people to be aware. So what about any other banking fraud things that we haven't hit on yet?
Well, these are the identity, and that's the biggest thing, is to protect your identity. I know we're taught to be trusting and loving and caring in our lives, but when it comes to financial issues, don't be too trustworthy. Skepticism is a good thing, and that applies to many of the scams that are being perpetrated today. We have, according to the Attorney General's office, the Sweepstakes Scam is a huge problem here in North Carolina and nationwide as well. Just in the last quarter of last year, from October to December, victims lost $790,000, where someone called them that they didn't know. They talked to them on the phone, and they learned that they were a winner of a big sweepstakes or some kind of prize or a lottery, but they had to send some money in order to claim their prize. And they found out later there was no prize.
Exactly. Oh, it seems that we've got a question.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So the question is from Alice: how are the North Carolina bank personnel responding to seniors who want to deposit lots of cash into accounts of third parties? And that kind of inches into the money mules and people residing in distant cities. That's a great question.
That is a great question, Alice. And the banks can put a hold for a period of time on that transaction. They're usually either wires or an ACH transaction, so they can hold that for a period of time. If there's a secondary contact, if the person has concern that this is not an authentic transaction, that this is a fraudulent transaction, then they can contact the person and have a conversation with them. Tell me the facts behind this, and just we encourage tellers to have these conversations with people don't be afraid to ask what they're wanting to do and to accomplish. And if they have a concern, then they can stop the transaction. The problem, though, with financial abuse, and particularly with elder financial abuse, is at some point the person has the right to do what they want with their money. And if they demand it and insist it, then the bank has to honor their wishes and let the money go. So we just encourage them to have a deeper conversation and understand what the person is wanting to accomplish, so that maybe they can uncover that there's a fraud going on.
Okay, yeah, this money mule thing it's a whole new. I mean, it's probably been around a long time, but it's certainly exacerbated in the last decade or so. Well, we've got another question. Okay, from Jerry, what are we doing to stop bank emails we receive?
Well, these now, if they're the kind that Gretchen described, it's not from a bank, so it's fraudulent, and they're just hard to stop. Hopefully, your filter can put them into your junk email, but they find ways of getting into your inbox, and so I would report it to the Attorney General's office.
Exactly, because if you get a conglomeration of people, a lot of people reporting this same problem, it really helps reinforce the work and helps catch the perpetrators. And I always say, report, share the information you learned today, and shred. Just don't throw things away, shred them. It's amazing. Again, what do you call them? Dumpster divers.
Yeah.
So it's really, yeah, those are my three mantras, I think. Okay. So I'm just trying to think back. Oh, and I'm going back to the sweepstakes for a sec. Yeah, they get you by getting you all excited that something wonderful is going to happen. You've won sweepstakes, and to get this money, you gotta help pay money, and then but wait a minute, we found out we've got to do taxes too, so you need to send more money. Gift cards, don't anything related to gift cards, don't touch it. No.
Well, and so the way they get to you is by just, and Attorney General Stein has been a real champion on this robocall issue. So whether it's a sweepstakes scam, a sweetheart scam, a Social Security scam, there's so many scams, but they all, well, not all, but they begin over the phone. Some over the internet, but some over the phone. And I just don't answer my phone. I know who calls me. And if I don't recognize a phone number, I just let it go to voicemail. And if it's just a click and a hang up, then they didn't need to talk to me anyway. But if they get you on the phone, the objective is to keep you on long enough to gain your trust. And once they've gained your trust, they keep you on the phone. And then they either tell you about the sweepstakes that you've won, and you need to pay some money to release the money. Or if it's the Social Security scam, they just need your personal information. They're just mining for data.
Right.
And now with those, I talk to the Social Security scam people who call me. I call them back because I want to just play with them. And so I don't encourage anyone to do that, but I do it because I just want to frustrate them.
Oh, I think the screen froze.
I'm sorry, did I freeze?
Oh, now we all froze.
Oh no. Oh, Rebecca says everything's fine. Okay, so
okay, we're coming back.
Okay, just on the Social Security scam, one of the things that concerns me there is they They scare you. They really try to frighten you that there's a problem with your Social Security.
Well, we wait to see if we can get Peter back. Oops, I guess I'm out again too.
Hey,
we'll just keep on going, even though we had a little glitch here. Keep on keeping on, Peter, with the information you were sharing.
Okay. Well, on the Social Security scam, if you answer the phone, it will be someone telling you that there's a problem with your Social Security account and that they need your information. Social Security will never ever call you. They send you a letter if they need you, and so all they're doing is mining for data. They need your personal information, and once they have it, then bad things are going to happen. And so, as I said, I talk to them because I want to frustrate them and I play with them. But my best advice, and I told this to my own mother, just don't answer your phone. Let calls that you don't recognize go to voicemail and go on about your day. And if a friend calls you and you missed it, you can call them right back. But if it's anyone trying to scam you, then you don't need to talk to them.
Yep. That was some good advice my mom always had too, that if it's important enough, they will call you back. So don't answer your phone is a good rule. And we have quite a few additional questions. So I'm just going to post one of those for us here. Is it safe to give your checking account information to a vendor for payment of goods and services? That is a fantastic question, Joe.
Yes, and that is a perfectly valid and good way to make a payment. If I'm talking to someone that I have contacted and I need to make a payment to them, and they give me the option of credit card, debit card, or I can give them my checking account number and they can just automatically draw it off my account, I do that. It's the same as giving them your debit card or your credit card over the phone or mailing them a check. It's just faster. So yes, that's safe to do.
Okay, and to tag on to that question, Peter, sometimes I wonder if, whoever's on the other end of that phone call in receiving your checking account information, or even somebody who receives your check, all of your data is right there on the check. Are there ways to kind of safeguard, or is it just that constant monitoring to make sure that that information isn't used fraudulently?
Great question, Rebecca. They're responsible for what they do with your data. Okay. And there are laws on the books about financial crimes. And so if they do something illegal with it, they'll suffer the consequences. The best way you'll find out about whether it's been misused, your information, is to check your bank statement every single month. Religiously check your bank statement. It's dangerous not to.
So if there's a mantra from you, it is check your bank statement. Okay. Yes. And we've just got about a minute left, but here's another question that's great. What is the best way? Is there a best way to send money to a relative? I know the apps are popular now, the banking apps.
Yes. My kids use Venmo and Zelle. Those have become verbs in my house. Zelle me some money, Daddy, or Venmo me some money. I also, we use a variety of ways to get money to family members in our house, and they're all safe. So whether if your bank offers a person-to-person P2P, they call it, cash transfer option, those are safe. They're perfectly safe. They're new, they're digital, but they're safe. Or you could mail them a check. There are a lot of different ways you can get money to family members, but these P2P vehicles are really quick and easy to use.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we heard it straight from you. I'm going to bring Gretchen back in as we wind up our Fraudcast here. We have been really blessed to have you with us today, Peter, to share valuable information and answer questions. I know that Gretchen always is a great reminder of the Fraud Watch Network. And Gretchen, would you like to say a few words about the Fraud Watch Network?
Right. It's another way to report fraud incidents. I think in last year they got 72,000 interactions on the Fraud Watch, and the same kinds of things that Peter's talking about that go on across the country. So you can look it up online, look up the Fraud Watch Network, register. You get 2 emails or text messages a month about current frauds. You can call them. We got one the other day of a really bizarre email a person got. I called them up and talked about it, and they said, "Oh yeah, that's LifeLock and Norton. They're pretending that's who they are," and they wanted $1,700. So it's good to talk to the Fraud Watch as well, and they distribute the information to about 6,000 law enforcement agencies. So we're all working together. So, and then next week we'll be back, same time, and so register for the seminar next week. And I think next week we're talking about investment fraud. So, oh boy, that's another one. Yes, Rebecca.
And before we say adieu, we do have another question about how to contact Peter directly. So I'll go ahead and put the Bankers Association website up there. And Peter, is there a way they can find you or get in touch with you or a staff member through this site?
Yes. My email is very simple. It's peter@ncbankers.org.
Okay, so you heard it there first. I tried to type it, but I don't think I'm fast enough. peter@ncbanker.org.
Bankers, the same as our website. Yes.
Okay, thank you. peter@ncbankers.org.
Great.
Well, I guess we will say goodbye for now, and we hope to see you next week at the same time for the session on investment fraud.
And thank you, Peter. It's just been a delight. I'm so glad we got to do this together. So thank you.
Well, thank you and Rebecca for the excellent work you're doing. We appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.